Welcome, everyone. We'll get started soon. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to have David on our team provide us with some instructions on how to best get on the proper interpretation channel of your choice. David?
Thank you, Shalem. Antes de comenzar, voy a compartir las instrucciones para acceder a los servicios de interpretación. Voy a hacer esto primero en español y luego en inglés. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to share the interpretation instructions first in Spanish and then in English. Para las personas que nos acompañan hoy a través de su tableta o su iPad o su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, favor de localizar el menú en forma de 3 puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden seleccionar Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje. Y enseguida pueden seleccionar su idioma, en este caso, el español o Spanish. Para todas las personas que nos acompañan a través de su computadora, pueden localizar el símbolo de interpretación en forma de globo en parte inferior de su pantalla. Hagan clic ahí y después elijan su lenguaje en español o Spanish. Ahora voy a dar estas instrucciones en inglés. Here are the instructions in English. For all those joining us tonight through their tablets or iPads or through their smartphones, please locate the menu in the form of 3 dots on your screen. You can click there and then select language interpretation and then select the language of your choice. In this case, it would be English. If you're joining us through your computer, you can locate the icon in the form of a globe for interpretation at the bottom of your screen. You click there, and then from there, select English as a language of your choice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it. Just to let you all know, this evening's meeting, as typical with our virtual meetings, is being recorded. Before we go through the meeting agreement, I just want to introduce myself, Shalem Abudi Lopez. If for some reason you are a CSC member and you find yourself in the attendee room, I will do my best to send you a notice for you to enter the panelist room as well. And so I do see Nick Critty in the attendance room that I'm trying to promote to panelists as well. I just want to welcome you all this evening. I know, and I want to be acknowledge that for some of us in this space, we might be coming with a lot on our minds and hearts. And so I want to be cognizant of that, and just want to say that, you know, we're sending much empathy and love for what folks may be experiencing in this moment as well, both personally and professionally. As always, we have our meeting agreements, ensuring that we can create a space for everyone to contribute. Step up, step back if you find yourself taking a lot of space or providing a lot of comments. Maybe step back a bit so others can step up and share. Only one person speaks at a time. Listen to each other, respect each other's opinions, knowledge, and perspective. Be conscientious of time. And please speak slowly and clearly for the interpreter to be able to hear you and provide interpretation. One thing I do want to note as well is that, apologize, I'm getting some notices here, is that even though we have folks that are not listed as panelists, but in the attendee room, they are more than welcome to speak in this space. And I'll make sure that they have the time and space to do so. they can try to add a comment in the chat box, and I'll make sure that they're able to speak up in this space. There's always an opportunity for Q&A and discussion after each presentation this evening. Okay. So with that, I'm going to first do a roll call. I'm actually stop sharing my screen for just a moment so I could pull up the appropriate screen. All right. Keith Corey. Keith Corey. Shelby. Shelby. I'm just checking also the attendee room too, just to double check. Okay. Jack.
I'm here. Good evening.
All right. Massey.
Hi, I'm here.
All right. Thank you. Sarah.
Sarah is running about 5 minutes late.
Okay, we'll be sure to log her in once she's here. Lydia.
I'm here.
All right, thanks, Lydia. Leslie.
Leslie is not here, but Phil is here.
All right, thanks, Phil. Carrie.
Hello, I'm here.
All right, welcome, Carrie. And Carrie, just for folks' awareness, is the new SANDAG primary representative on the CSC. So welcome. Mariela. Okay. Nick Paul.
Present.
Martin Reeder. David Welch. Roman. Safia.
Here.
Thank you. Stephanie Yoon. Okay. Jose.
Here, thank you.
Brent.
Here, thank you.
All right. Nick, I did see you, Nick Critty. I did promote you to panelist, so go ahead and find your way in. Sergio. Jonathan.
I'm here, and Leanna is not.
Okay, thank you. Janice. Jackie. Alicia. Alicia Sanchez.
Presente.
John. John. Okay. Margarita.
Presente.
Gracias.
Hey, Shalem. Janice just notified me that she's not able to be in as a panelist. She's here. I think she's in the attendee.
Okay, let me check that. Yep, let me move her over. Thank you for letting me know.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and let me make sure I get Janice in. Thank you, Janice, for communicating that. Okay. Vanessa.
Shalom, I see an email from Vanessa says that meeting is now not allowing her to get in.
All right. Would you be able to send her the link, David? Just to make sure
Yep.
she
Sure.
has an appropriate one? All right.
I'll do that.
Okay. Sal. Montserrat,
Here.
thank you.
I'm in a good mood, so I'll let it fly.
Ashley,
Here.
okay.
It will only be me.
Sylvia,
Pleasure. Handle liquor.
Present.
all right, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and put mute there, so I think I hear someone's TV. Apologize about that. Josephine, Maritza,
Present.
David Ramos,
Here.
okay. Let me just share my screen here where I was taking attendance. 1 second.
Hey, Shalom, this is Sarah Giobbi. I just joined late, but wanted to let you know I got here.
Perfect. Let me add you in here. There we are.
Shalom, sorry, I think Kyle's also as an attending, not a panelist. I think he's presenting.
Okay, I can certainly fix that as well. All
Thank
right,
you.
so just wanted to show folks, if you could see my screen, okay, my attendance sheet. So we have 20 present, 15 absent, meeting quorum. Are there any other changes to the roll call that we should account for at this moment? I know Vanessa's trying to get in, so we'll, we can certainly update this when she comes in. All right, I'm gonna let a couple folks in. I apologize. Move to panelist. And Amaya, I see you. I'm moving you to panelist as well. Okay. All right. So with that, let me go back to sharing my screen and I'll share what is on the agenda for this evening. Okay. We'll provide some general updates in just a minute. After that, we'll ask for approval of the meeting minutes or meeting notes for the last time we met, which was back in November. And then we'll get a presentation from the folks at CARB regarding their annual progress update, story maps and media. Then we'll be receiving a presentation from USDG Clean Fuels Terminal Project, there's several folks that are here today. Then we will be receiving a presentation from the Environmental Health Coalition on the same project as well. An opportunity for public comments and then closing remarks. In terms of 2 overall objectives today, in addition to receiving, an update from CARB, of course, is to receive a presentation from USDG Fuels to learn more about the proposed project and an opportunity to ask questions. And secondly, receive a presentation by the Environmental Health Coalition about the potential impacts of USDG Fuels terminal facility project and take a potential vote to have the CSC sign on to a letter, which was sent several weeks ago. And I'll be putting in the chat box as well, where you can find all the corresponding documents and letters for today's conversation. With that, I'd like to open it up and see if there is anyone who would like to make a motion regarding the minutes from the last time we met in November and approval of agenda.
This is Maritza. I motion to approve both the notes and the agenda. Sorry, the minutes in the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Sylvia Calzada, second.
All right. And just wanted to see if there's any discussion before we move to a vote. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And all those opposed, say nay. All right, it sounds as though the ayes have it. All right, so we'll be moving on to the first item of the agenda. I believe Amaya will be walking us and Audrey will be walking us through this presentation. So I'll go ahead and hand it to them, and you all should be able to navigate the share screen feature as well.
Yes, thank you, Shalom. Let me get my presentation up real quick. Okay, you're seeing the correct screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Amaya. I work at CARB in the Office of Community Air Protection, and today I'm going to be giving a short presentation on CARB's annual update, which is basically a presentation and a report that we give every summer to our board. But what I'm most interested in talking to you guys about is the story maps that we create that we're hoping to get some community input on so that we can cater them to what you would like to see. And if you haven't seen an ArcGIS story map, I'll show it in just a second. So essentially, as I just said, every summer CARB goes to the CARB board and we present what we've been doing in the Community Air Protection Program, and we share updates from communities on where they're at in their air monitoring initiatives and their SERP initiatives. And we're really hoping with our update to share and uplift stories of successes and challenges across the different communities. Generally, this takes the form of a report, some short videos, a panel, and then the ArcGIS story map, which we create. And these are just some screenshots from our, sorry about that, from our last update. So here actually is Maritza, who's here. She was on our panel last year. And a few of the CSE members here were in a video that we're currently finalizing for the Portside community. So I know that a handful of you have already seen that, but it'll be out for the rest of the group to see very soon. So essentially, we give this update every year, but we're really trying to evolve the way that we give this update and what kind of format we give it in. Because as the slide says, we need your voices and your narratives. We want your updates to be told in your voice. And since this is a new program and it's evolving, it's very useful and helpful to have kind of documentation of what's happening in communities and hearing it, especially directly from community members. Typically, we've given this update in the forms of just really long reports, and it doesn't really come across as impactfully. It doesn't, I feel like it doesn't make as much sense if we're not hearing it directly from you guys. So that's kind of what we're trying to evolve our update to be and why we're asking you guys for your input. So this is some links to the story map that we created last year. We made one story map for the San Diego APCD, which covers your community and the international border communities. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so that I can pull up the story map and show you guys. Actually, let me also first drop the link in the chat so that you guys can go ahead and take a look as well. Okay, I sent it in the chat. I hope it's sent to everybody, but it says to hosts and panelists. So if not, if somebody could make sure that that chat is available to everybody, I would appreciate that. Okay, so this is the ArcGIS story map that we created last year for San Diego. And essentially, this is a website that you can go to where it combines maps, pictures, videos, and then written updates all in one place to kind of tell one cohesive narrative and story. So here is an interactive map of the San Diego communities. Here we have the Portside communities. And then it has some information if you scroll through this on different fundings from the past year, emission reductions that have taken place. So just kind of a quick snapshot of some information. And we also have that for international border communities. And then if you go through the story map, it's kind of just going through a series of highlights from your SERP initiatives, as well as air monitoring initiatives. So yeah, these are just kind of block descriptions of what has been highlighted and worked on over the past year. So this top portion is the Portside communities, and then we also go through the international border communities. And then at the end, there's just some links and resources. And so going through this, this was our first story map that we created last year. As you could see, there's a lot of blocks of text. It's pretty text heavy. Yours actually does have a few more pictures than some of the other story maps we created, but it is still very text heavy and still kind of, for lack of a better term, gives a report vibe because of how it's formatted. So that's why we wanted to ask you guys specifically how you might want to see this evolve and how we can incorporate more of your voice and your narrative into this story map, because like I said, it's really valuable to have this kind of documentation so that other communities that are looking to engage in community air protection can kind of have this as a guide or as some inspiration. But this can also be used for whatever you as the CSC want to use it for. I know in the past I've heard members of this CSC talk about wanting some more recruitment tools for outreaching to potential new members. So this can also be a means for doing that. It can also be helpful if you're onboarding new CSC members, just to give them a nice snapshot of what your CSC is prioritizing. And then the other big thing is that we would love to have as many pictures and videos of community members as possible, because the pictures of, the tugboat and the maps, like, they're great, but we also want to see the actual people that are behind this and why we're doing this work in the first place. So that's just a quick overview of the story map. Let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so we do want to hear your guys' input today. So I have a QR code here if you want to scan it with your phone, or if you are on a computer, you could also go to menti.com and enter this code. So we're going to do a poll with 2 questions to kind of get it started, hearing what you guys would like to see in this year's story map. So I believe Lauren or Shalem has the Mentimeter to share.
Yes, I'll put it in the chat box in just a moment.
Okay, yeah, I'll leave this slide up here for a little bit just so folks can scan the QR code and start entering the poll.
Okay, I just put the link in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Shalom.
Yeah, and both panelists and attendees are welcome to take this poll.
Okay, I'll stop sharing here so that Lauren or Shalem, you can share your screen with the poll.
Okay, you should be seeing the poll. Are you seeing it?
Yes, we could
Okay.
see it on the screen. I think if you click present, it might come up a little bit bigger.
Go.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Oh, thank you. I see people are already inputting. That's great. So what would you like to highlight in this year's story maps? I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at your last year's story map before this meeting or just right now, but if there's anything that you really like in there or that you really don't like, feel free to put that here so that we can take that into account. This is a really open-ended question, so don't feel like you need to have a super fleshed out answer. This is a discussion that we can continue here or offline. So if there's any major SERP initiatives that you're really proud of that you want to highlight in the story map, that's something you could put here. Or maybe if there's a tool that you guys like using, we can try to embed it in the story map so that it's easily accessible. Or if there's just more of a like an update to how we wrote the story map, maybe you want it to be more first person narrative from a community member perspective. That's something that you could put here as well. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the responses. See people impacted, information about pollution from truck and road traffic, projects that have been funded consistent with the SERP. See that we want to incorporate the community expectations document. And then the SERP goals that we've 100% completed. I think that's something that we're in the works talking to Shalem about already, is having some kind of SERP tracker present in the story map as well. I'll give it another minute or so to see if folks have anything else to add. And if you guys want to elaborate on anything, I don't know how the meeting controls work, but I'm also open to people unmuting and kind of elaborating on anything they might have put in the Mentimeter.
Yeah, we just wanted to open up to questions or comments if folks wanted to share more about what they posted. This is true for both panelists and attendees. But I'm seeing lots of great direction and feedback, some of which we've started talking about, like you said, Amaya.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm
this
just
looks
looking.
great. This is super helpful for us.
All right, Amaya. And I think we have one more question, right, for folks to engage with?
Yeah, we have one more poll question. Okay, so the second question is, how would you like to use the story maps? And I know at first this might sound a little bit confusing or open-ended, but as I was saying during the presentation, if it's something that you would want to use as a recruitment tool primarily, then you can let us know here. But if it's something you'd like to use for kind of orientation or onboarding, I know that some people are interested in using the story maps just as kind of like a journal to document their accomplishments and something to look back on. What else? If people ask you what do you do in the CSC and you just want something that you're able to show them to give them a snapshot of what you're doing, then this can be that as well. And then lastly, as I was saying, being able to document this and having this resource available can be helpful for other people that are trying to get engaged in community air protection and learn about what else is out there, what other programs are available, or what other communities have engaged in. Then this could be a good educational resource as well. I like to be able to compare progress from year to year. Haven't heard that from the other CCs we presented at, so that's a good thing to point out. Yeah, I see comparisons to other CSC as a response as well. I'll go ahead and also drop in the chat our website where we have all of the story maps that we made for all of the communities last year, so that if you guys wanted to take a look at what the other story maps look like, you could do that as well. Sorry, Shalem. I don't know if I'm just bad at Zoom, but I can't seem to figure out how to send a message to everybody.
No worries. I apologize. It might be the actual setting, but I will be sure to post that for everyone.
Okay,
1
for
second.
sure. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, everybody should have access to that link now.
Perfect. Thank you, Shalem. Okay, so I see a little bit of everything, information sharing, recruitment material, being able to compare to other CSCs and look at what might be applicable to you guys that you haven't done so far, and vice versa, what you guys might be able to share that other communities can learn from. I like the use for public outreach events too. This could be a good place to kind of put where you can find meeting information or to broadcast events if you want to check back regularly. There any last things to add, or any people that want to unmute and either elaborate or share their how they would like to use the story maps? Okay, I think that sounds good if the responses have slowed down. Yes, that's essentially my whole presentation. My last slide is just some contact information for if you guys want to reach out to me if you guys think of anything outside of this meeting, feel free to just send me an email and I'd be happy to chat with you guys. Some other things that I discussed with Shalem in a previous meeting was potentially kind of coming out to your community and maybe taking some dedicated pictures of community members near either landmarks that are important to you or near maybe emission sources that you guys are working on. I think it's nice to see it centered around community members rather than centered around the pollution. So if that's something that's interesting to anybody, you can feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to set up a Zoom call or plan a time that works for CARB and for the CSC to kind of get together and do that. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Amaya. Appreciate you providing the CSC and attendees an opportunity to kind of help shape the next iteration of the story map. So excited to see when that comes out. But one quick question, Amaya, when will the new one come out? Is that usually in the summertime?
Yeah, I think that Nicole and I are planning on drafting them in March and April, and then we're going to have final drafts coming out in, I think, late June or early July.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm still checking to see if I need to move more folks to the panelist before our next presentation. I actually do not see Sal there. So yeah, so I'll have to look for that. I'm not seeing him as a attendee. All right. With that, we'll be moving on to our next presentation, which is a presentation by USDG Clean Fuels representative. I know that there's about maybe 3 or 4 people. And Gustavo, you're the last person that I was corresponding with today. Is everyone, and Bill, is everyone on your team that is presenting today in the panelists section, or am I missing someone?
I don't, how do I look that up?
You should be able
Just see
to,
names on the screen.
yeah. Maybe if you could share with me, Bill. So Bill, Gustavo, and I think there was 2 other people on your team.
Yes, I think probably I would have Kevin LeBourne there.
Yep,
And,
I'm on.
Kevin is
I'm on.
on. Okay, great.
And then Gavin Jenkins, he's on. So if they're showing on the screen, I assume that's the
Perfect. Yep,
right.
they are.
Thank you for double checking. And is my volume okay?
Yeah, just wanted to make sure. I can hear you okay. Yeah, and we'll make sure if folks can't hear, then we'll make sure to pause. All right. Before we get started, I just want to share kind of the format. So they'll be providing about a 15-minute presentation. And then there will be an opportunity for Q&A, for discussion after that for about 15 minutes. And then we have a presentation on the same subject, on the same project by the Environmental Health Coalition as well. Same thing there. There will also be an opportunity for Q&A and discussion after that presentation as well. So total, we have about dedicated about an hour to this particular issue this evening. We do have a little bit of wiggle room towards the end for a little bit more time if we do go over that hour as well, but I'll do my best to manage our time collectively. As per request of the CSC, we did make a request for USDG Clean Fuels to provide the CSC with the filled out document of the Portside expectation document. We didn't receive that, but also we're open to receiving that document filled out to the best of your ability to share with the CSC during the meeting or after the meeting as well. So at this time, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Bill.
Thank you, Shalom, and to the Portside Committee Steering Committee, Portside Community Steering Committee. We thank you for your invitation and the opportunity to present our project. We had submitted a letter last week to you, Shalom, after receiving from you the meeting invite. And as the letter indicates, we are asking that the CSC vote to support our project for the reasons that we will explain. And those are primarily that it's consistent with the goals of cleaner air through cleaner fuels. And this project specifically will deliver that with 2,400,000 fewer truck miles on the road per year. I am Bill Firking. My role with USD Clean Fuels, my title is Chief Administrative Officer. For purposes of this project, it is community and permitting support for the project. And with me is Gustavo Monroy. He is the director of the project, and I will do a brief presentation, and then Gustavo will do a brief presentation. All of that should be 10 or 12 minutes, so leaving plenty of time for questions. So what is the National City Clean Fuels Project? It is a project to, as the slide says, to deliver cleaner air through cleaner fuels with 2.4 million truck miles less on the road per year. Project will deliver about 13,000 barrels a day to include renewable diesel, biodiesel, and ethanol, all of which are mandated and incentivized by California law for the purpose of delivering cleaner air. The renewable diesel, for example, reduces carbon intensity on average by about 65% over conventional diesel, and particulate matter, or what's referred to as diesel particulate matter, by 29% over conventional diesel. And those are based on EPA and CARB data, not our data. Gustavo is going to tell you Kevin, if you can go to the next slide, Gustavo is going to tell you more about the facility. This is a rendering. I will tell you the white line is a facility boundary of the railroad property. That is just there to kind of define the project area. And Gustavo will tell you about the facility, its construction and operation in just a minute. I would just like to give you a brief overview of kind of the what and why of this project before turning it over to him. And basically, in layman's terms, and as maybe a mental model to understand how this railroad property will function, this project delivers the cleaner fuels that the state wants and the market needs. These are not our fuels. These are fuels from producers all over that hire the railroads. The railroads decide where they want these projects to go based on their footprints. And they work with their customers on what would be the good locations. We provide a service of constructing what is called transloading operations, which is merely moving matter from being transported on a rail car to another form of media. In this case, moving the customer's fuel from the rail cars into the trucks that the customer is contracted with to deliver these fuels. These fuels will replace conventional fuels at existing locations in about a 35-mile radius. And the primary advantage is by using rail for long-haul trips. They replace the truck trips that are now coming, and we'll show you in a minute, from the LA Basin and the Inland Empire. These fuels are then distributed by our customers' transporters to individual stations and places wherever they have contracts to deliver fuel. And that's the process of using long-haul rail, more efficient long-haul rail, is what results in significant savings in moving the fuels and then getting to a location in the market that can efficiently handle the deliveries to the customer in that radius is where the truck trips are saved. If you think about this facility in essence as just a simple little mental model, if you think how a gas station works, where trucks pull up, they deliver fuel into storage tanks, and then cars come and fill up with fuel from those storage tanks. Our project, using the efficiencies of rail, bring the product that primarily these clean fuels come from the Midwest and the US Gulf Coast. And they will come here by rail car. Those rail cars will be unloaded directly into trucks, eliminating the need for any storage. We initially submitted this project to a national city in an ISM&D process, and based on community and city feedback, we have reduced this project scale by about 50%. The draft EIR that is for public comment determined no significant impacts in any of the studies of the areas applicable to this project. We have adopted the use of established truck routes established by the city, which the SERP recommends as one of its key strategies and probably the one most applicable to this project. And our San Diego County Air Pollution Control District application indicates that the proposed operation will be a minor source of emissions. Now, the question we've gotten frequently is, why National City? And part of that is the market and the reason that, as I explained before, that we are replacing long truck trips that are serving this market. Now, Kevin, if you can go ahead and show that slide. This location was picked. If you see here, you're familiar with the geography if you see the map. The green are just some rail routes, some long haul rail routes for reference. But by using rail, we eliminate about 25,000 round trip truck trips from both the LA Basin and the Inland Empire that are currently, that's how this San Diego area market, if I may call it that, is being served. So what this will do is bring those cleaner renewable fuels into this market to displace the existing conventional fuels that are still there. And as a result, not only do we get the benefits of the emission savings for all of those truck trips, but as these clean fuels are available in the market, the vehicles and equipment that drive will have availability of cleaner fuels at a much bigger scale than they have now. And the benefits of that is almost immediate once we start our project. So you hear me reference the 2.4 million truck miles per year. That's really just the math of the truck trips needed to carry that volume. And as the screen will show you, rail is well recognized as being much more efficient form of transportation in terms of emissions and fuel use per ton mile moved than trucks. So you have both the tailpipe emissions of the displacement of existing conventional fuels plus the truck trips that will be displaced. Now, the railroad, this is railroad property. The way these projects works, if for those of you familiar with railroads, is railroads contract with their customers. We're not a customer of the railroad. We're a service provider in this process. And so the railroad chose this site believing that it wants to put this site based on its decision into commercial use. It believes that this project has the most significantly positive impact due to the air emissions by bringing clean fuels into this market. And that's why, at least one of the reasons that they shared with us for choosing this project here. As part of this project, there are a number of benefits. I'll just highlight a few. One is, as we discussed, making those cleaner fuels available almost immediately upon operation of this terminal. The trucks will not be going to new locations. They will replace the existing trucks going to the existing location. They will have much more renewable clean fuels than are what available in the market now. We are also, because of discussions with the city wanted what they consider significant safety improvements made on Civic Center Drive that apparently they've been contemplating for a while. We have agreed as part of this project that we will do those safety improvements that the city wants. Includes improvements not on the roads and sidewalks and bike paths, but on the rail crossings there as well. We will have a mobile firefighting platform as a safeguard on our property. We have never had to use one at any of our fuels facilities before, but we will make that and have offered to make that mobile firefighting platform available to the city because they do not have one. And all we ask is if they need it, they can get it, they can use it, and just replace the phone that they use when they return the platform. We're going to use highly skilled and trained construction workforce on the project, and also this will have 24 full-time, well-paying jobs as part of this project. and then positive economic impacts associated with the project overall. And the whole purpose of this project is to deliver these fuels for the purpose of cleaner air based on the emissions from cleaner fuels. Now, there are genuine questions that have been raised throughout this process in our various public outreach efforts. Those public outreach efforts, among others, have included the city public scoping meeting. We individually had a meeting with EHC. We had a voluntary town hall for the surrounding community that was well attended. And we've had many other discussions. And those questions have raised topics such as truck traffic, noise, fire, safety, odor, fumes, and air quality. We understand having those questions, and we've done our best to address them when they're raised. The EIR speaks to those issues and reflects, to summarize for brevity and clarity, that no significant impacts were determined in our analysis in any study applicable to our project. So we believe that those concerns, people have them, we understand them, but as we look at the impacts according to the standards that the state and the city has set out for evaluating them, the EIR speaks to the lack of significant impacts. So in summary, we believe this project will be beneficial to not only National City and its people that live there, but the surrounding area. It'll advance the Clean Air Act goals of the Portside Community Steering Committee. And due to the improved supply chain and the benefit of the tailpipe emissions reductions, we think it'll actually advance the clean air goals of EHC, particularly those we've heard about in regard to CO2 emissions and diesel particulate. And then those of National City, other cities in the state of California. So we hope that the Portside CSC will see the benefits of this project and actively support it. So with that introduction, I'll just ask Gustavo Monroy to do a brief overview of the facility construction and operation.
So, good evening. Muy buenas noches a todos. My name is Gustavo Rodriguez Monroy. I am a project development director at USD, where I have worked for the past 7 years developing projects in the US, in Mexico, and in Canada. Today, I'm going to share with you a brief description of our project at National City, how we will operate it, our safety commitment, and the related traffic results. Let's start with the project. Nat City project will create a more efficient and sustainable logistics solution for our low carbon clean fuels, which include a total of 13,000 barrels per day of renewable diesel, biodiesel, and ethanol. This volume is equivalent to approximately 70 truckloads per day. 70, that's all. These fuels are made from non-petroleum renewable sources, such as biomass, tallow, and used cooking oil. As you can see in the screen, we will use a small footprint on an existing BNSF railroad site. At the right-hand side, you can see 4 truck spots for loading. On the left-hand side, you will see first 2 tracks for offloading the rail cars, and then storage tracks where we will storage loaded and empty rail cars.
Gustavo, could you hold for just a moment? I want to make sure, our interpretation is working okay. I just got a message in the chat box. All right, just want to check with the interpreters. I'm on the Spanish channel. Can you speak? Okay, great. We're going to go ahead. Yes, I can hear you now. All right, we're going to get this started again. All right, sorry about that, Gustavo. Go ahead.
All right, maybe I will go slower.
Yeah.
Okay, As you can see in the screen, we will have a small footprint on an existing BNSF railroad site. An existing rail spur will be reconfigured to receive and load rail cars directly into 4 truck loading spots, as you can see in the graphic. This process eliminates the need for storage tanks. We will not have tanks at the facility, minimizing the risk. The railcar unloading and truck loading processes will be equipped with a vapor control that meet the San Diego's Air Pollution Control District requirement. During the construction, we will use a highly skilled and trained workforce, normally local workforce. Now, let me orient you to the exact location. Perhaps, Kevin, we can show the next slide and then come back to this one, please. All right. So we are located on the west side of the San Diego I-5 freeway towards the Navy Yard. On the west side, you can see Thailand's Avenue. Civic Center Drive to the north, West 19th Street is to the south, and Cleveland Avenue to the east. And here we show the trajectory that the trucks will follow from the I-5 to the terminal and back to the I-5. This has been carefully selected. Okay, so let's go back. Thank you, Kevin. Now let's talk about operation. Let me start by saying this is a simple, controlled, and safe operation. First, the BNSF railroad will deliver rail cars into the designated receiving tracks on the left. A highly skilled and trained crew will inspect and receive each car. Normally, we scan each rail car, and we will have all the details, and physically, we will check on critical points of each car. At the right time, the crew will attach the rail car to the system of pipes connected to pumps and meters. Then, as the truck arrives, they will be inspected and grounded and connected as preparation to be loaded with clean fuels. Once the paperwork is finished and the truck is loaded, they will depart. Also, as the rail cars empty, they will be replaced, switching them at a very low speed of 5 to 10 miles per hour, very slow. This is an internal movement from one track to another. Later, the railroad company will remove the empty cars from the facility as required. The trucks will use the designated truck routes to approach and depart from the facility, as we saw on the previous graphic. Let's talk now about our commitment to safety. And I'm very proud of what I'm going to say. The USD Clean Fuels team has operated fuel transloading facilities for over 16 years with 0 reportable releases and 0 recordable injuries. Let me say it again. 16 years with 0 reportable releases and 0 recordable injuries. Clearly, for us, safety is first. Our proven safety management system dictates how safety and environmental matters are managed. All of our operators will be trained in the facility emergency response plan, which will be developed and in consultation with local emergency responders. The facility will incorporate redundant containment and safety features, including emergency shut-off valves, drip pans, containment basin, mobile firefighting foam, as Bill described, and many others. Now let's talk about traffic. Let me share with you that a thorough traffic impact study was conducted as part of the CEQA process. The results show that the project-related traffic is below applicable regional thresholds and is consistent with the city general plan. The truck management plan will avoid residential areas, schools, churches, and congested areas. Remember that the property is on the west side of the San Diego's I-5 freeway, on the west side. It is important to consider that approximately 70% of the truck trips will occur between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. to avoid peak traffic periods. The designated truck routes minimize the impact on the community. I want to close by saying that selecting this project brings a more efficient logistics solution for clean fuels by reducing 2,400,000 per year truck miles, which means, in few words, cleaner air. I'm Gustavo, and I'll be happy to assist with any translation to Spanish or in any other way. Thank you. And with that, Bill, let's go back to you.
Well, thank you, Gustavo. And I will turn it over, Shalom, to you and the committee.
Sure. Thank you, Bill and Gustavo, for sharing. We did get a question in the chat box if folks would be able to get a copy of tonight's presentation. And we do ask that all presenters share a slide deck so that we can post it on the meeting webpage as well. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions, comments. This includes both folks that are listed as panelists, also as attendees as well. All right. And if you could show a hand, and that'll just help me get people in the deck.
Then Shalom, we'll be happy to send you the deck that we showed tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just email that to you. Is that how that works?
Yeah, just email it to me, and then I will upload it for folks
Great,
in the
thank
meeting.
you.
Any questions or comments? Nicolas.
Hi, Bill, Gustavo. Thank you for the presentation. So I had some questions. I have some concerns about the heavy duty truck traffic in our neighborhood. So I think one of your slides mentioned that the fuel transfer station would reduce truck trips from Los Angeles and the Inland Empire. I think the estimate was reduce it by 25,000 truck trips.
Round trips.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what is, can you remind me what the daily truck trip amount is at this facility?
Well, once this facility opens, there will be approximately 70 trips per day.
Got it.
And while we know that for some may sound like a big number, just two things. One, those trucks doing the long haul are also coming to deliver everywhere in this 35-mile radius that trucks are delivering fuel to today. So one way to think about that is it's really just changing where they get on and off I-5. And while, yes, they are now 70 concentrated in this national city location, the combination of the route, the designated truck route that the city set, that is also one of the SERP strategies, avoids churches, schools, and residences. The closest school and church are on the other side of I-5, and the closest residences are the apartment building that is included in the analysis of some sensitive receptors in the EIR. The EIR conclusions were no significant impacts under local and California standards for either the sensitive receptors or due to the truck traffic. Those are not our standards. Those are standards applied.
Got it. Okay, so just so that I can make sure my math is correct, at 70 truck trips per day, 365 days a year, that's 25,550 diesel truck trips to the heart of National City. And so I see, I guess your way of thinking of it is one way of thinking of it. You know, to be super clear, our role as a CSC is to implement a community emissions reduction plan. And so concentrating these trucks into a neighborhood that already has extremely high levels of diesel particulate in the air is not moving us towards that direction. And so I respectfully disagree with your way of seeing this project. Yeah.
And I would just say these trucks, remember when the clean fuels arrive, all the fleets of existing cars will now have access to the clean fuels, replacing the conventional that aren't there now. And EPA and CARB numbers are that RD, renewable diesel, has a 29% emission reduction in diesel particulate matter, just using that measure that you brought up. So having these fuels there, all the same equipment's going to be running on-road, off-road, trucks, everything. But having these fuels available will reduce all of those emissions once RD is available by 29%. So while there is a concentration, the air doesn't know the borders. So the clean air benefit will be for the whole surrounding area, immediate and otherwise.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is.
And I understand your point. I totally understand your point. I just wanted you to understand that piece of it, Nicholas.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicholas, for your question. And thank you, Bill. We're going to go to Jack, Montserrat, Maritza, Phil, and then Jen in that order. And I'll post that in the chat box as well. Jack?
Thanks, Shalem. Thanks, Bill and Gustavo, for your time and presentation this evening. Some of the members of this steering committee, some of the community members, have had an unfortunate experience with another biofuel facility, not in National City, but very close by in San Diego. Primarily odors, and which were very pronounced within multiple blocks and residences that were right across the street from the biofuel processing facility and handling facility. How will your project make sure that doesn't happen at this facility?
Gustavo, would you or Kevin like to talk about the controls? What I can tell you while they're doing so is that the studies that are part of the emissions and the fence line emissions show no impacts or exceedances of any of the applicable measures for these in terms of emissions. In terms of odors, Gustavo and or Kevin,
I'll take that. Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good. So Jack, first point to your question, the distinction here is that this is not a processing facility. So there's no manufacturing of feedstock, raw materials that get converted into biofuels. That processing all occurs at the origin locations. As Bill mentioned, those origins are primarily in the mid-continent or Gulf Coast region of the US. And then the second point is that, and Gustavo touched on this a little bit in his project overview, and you know what we're going to build, what the kit contains, and we have a vapor control system, which is a closed loop system to capture vapors when you offload product from the train and rail cars and transload it onto the trucks. You're actually putting liquid into a vapor space. So where do the truck vapors go at that point in time? Our system is configured so we have a completely closed system and a return pipeline, or it's not essentially, it's a connection line from the truck back to the empty rail cars, and then those vapors are taken back to origin. So that's a primary concern when you're thinking about operations of facilities where you do have transloads. What do you do with truck vapors? And our closed loop vapor return line addresses that.
And I would say that our experience, and Kevin's is even longer than mine with these fuels terminals, liquid fuels terminal, is that if there are any perceptible odors, and typically when I go to one of these facilities, there are none. But if there are, it's never anything more than what you would experience at a gas station. And in fact, our connections from rail to truck are much more secure because of vapor lock than sticking the hose at a gas station that's not as well controlled. And that's why there's just very little odor.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jack.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
go to Montserrat, Maritza, Phil, and then Jen. After Jen, we will be transitioning to the next presentation, which is on the same topic. So if you have more questions or comments, we could take those at the end of the second presentation. But for now, we'll go to Montserrat, then Maritza, Phil, and then Jen.
Okay. ¿Puedo dar mi comentario, Shannon?
Sí.
Ok. Bueno, de lo que escuché, están diciendo ustedes que no están pasando por enfrente de ninguna escuela, de ninguna residencia, pero quiero recordarles que este negocio quedaría a menos de media milla de la escuela primaria Kimball, donde hay más de 400 niños estudiando en esa escuela. Y estarían cerca, 550 pies de la vivienda más cercana. Entonces, no necesitan pasar por enfrente de la escuela ni por enfrente de una vivienda para que pueda existir este peligro de incendio con el tipo de combustible que ustedes dicen que es combustible, pues que es menos contaminante. Otra cosa también que ustedes no están diciendo es que los camiones, los 70 o más camiones que van a transportar este combustible no son camiones limpios, son camiones a base de diésel. Y eso no lo están comentando ahorita, pero nosotros lo sabemos porque en la última junta que tuvimos, esa fue la respuesta de ustedes, que ustedes no podían determinar qué tipo de camiones usar. Entonces, creo que se deben de decir las cosas como son. Gracias.
Gustavo, you are probably in the best position to respond to that or explain to me. I can't
Bill, I
hear you.
just
Are you on mute, Gustavo?
I am. So let me translate for you, and you can decide how to answer.
Just one second, Gustavo.
Yep.
I want to make sure, Bill, and others, you're on the right interpretation channel. We provided those directions at the front of the meeting. You'll see a little a globe icon, and we do have simultaneous translation happening. And then you could select the language of your choice. I'll have Gustavo share with you what was said, but you'll be able to get professional simultaneous interpretation if you're on the right channel. Just want to make sure you have access to that.
And Shalem, the globe is actually in the more icon at the bottom. You click on more. And
Yeah, if you click on the dots.
English, right.
That's
Yeah.
the interpretation. Got it. So interpretations, click on the language you want to receive.
The language that
Yes.
you are comfortable in, so that would be English for you, and then we'll have that simultaneous interpretation. Gustavo, I don't know if you want to answer Monse's question, if you may have heard it.
Let me translate for Bill first. Okay, Bill, the summary of the first question was that our trucks will be close to the kinder and the church and some residences. I don't remember exactly the distance, but their perception is that we are going to be very close to them. So I think you already answered that, or you have some comments on that, but you may want to expand on that. And the second one was that the trucks that we are going to use are not environmentally friendly because they use diesel. Those are the summary of the two questions.
Kevin, could you pull up the map slide, please?
You bet.
I would say a couple of things, Montserrat. Thank you for that, Gustavo. First is that we do not contract with the trucks that come to our facility. Those are customer interactions with the trucks. And I would say, even if they are still conventional internal combustion engine trucks, the availability of these fuels in the area will replace the conventional diesel, and they will run on renewable diesel, which minimally will provide, according to CARB and EPA, the 29% diesel particulate matter reduction and the 65% carbon reduction, or carbon intensity. That's not only on the production of fuels, but remember, there's those benefits to the tailpipe emissions from cleaner fuels. That's one of the benefits of replacing them. As for where the trucks go, what you'll see on this map is these are the closest schools and churches. On the right side of both pictures is the closest school and church. On the left side is our facility. So it is completely on the other side of I-5. And I will point out that as these trucks, the 70 trucks per day that have been asked about and that we presented, according to the traffic study that was part of our EIR process, that is 0.2% of the traffic through National City, although 70 seems like a lot. And that 0.02% is the traffic through National City. That doesn't account for any of the interstate traffic, which, as you all know from living there, is very significant. And so, and as you saw on the prior diagram of where those trucks get on and off I-5 to our proposed facility, they do not pass any of the McKinley apartment. They do not pass, they're obviously on the other side and do not pass the school or the church. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. We're going to go to Maritza, and then Phil, and then Jen, and then we're going to transition to the next presentation. This particular item on the agenda is about 15 minutes over, and I want to be mindful and respectful of all the presenters that prepared this evening. So that means with Margarita, if it's okay, we'll hold your question or comment for after the next presentation, which is on the same subject as well. So Maritza and then Phil.
Thank you, Shalom. Mines are more comments than questions, so I'll try to get through them pretty quickly. I do want to remind that the reason that there is a designated truck route is because there is such an overburden of trucks in the community that one is required. So to emphasize that you are using the truck route, that is a necessity, that is not something you're doing out of your good grace. And, you know, I just want everyone to be able to be aware of that situation. I also didn't appreciate the way that the presentation was formatted and the community being viewed as a business transaction, saying how equitable it is for the whole of San Diego or national city, county, however you want to see it. These are people's lives that we are talking about, and any kind of extra trucks coming into the community does affect us. I personally do not live in National City. I live in Logan Heights, which is the neighboring community. And like you said, air doesn't know the borders. So what is being affected in my neighborhood community, my neighboring community, is affecting my community directly as well. And I do not want this narrative to be seen as a benefit to us directly. It is a burden to our community for the benefit of the rest. And that is not some way that we want to continue for our community to be seen. Reducing the trucks on the freeway is great for everyone else, but at the expense of National City is not. And these community members deserve to live in a safe place, and having companies with the viewpoint of, you know, profiting for themselves or even for the county as a whole, not really putting that much emphasis on how it's affecting the members that live here and are breathing the air directly, is very disappointing and really disrespectful. So those are my comments. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Maritza. We'll go to Phil and then Jen.
Hi, thanks. This is Phil Gibbons with the Port of San Diego, and I'm one of the committee members on the steering committee here. And I just wanted to kind of put some information out there too. You know, the renewable diesel, as well as some of these biofuels, are required in California at this point for various applications. There are regulations in California that requires hovercraft, for example, that are operating in San Diego Bay to use renewable diesel. So all of our fuel docks now are getting renewable diesel when they can get it. There has been supply issues down in San Diego. The state of California's greenhouse gas goals have a very large emphasis on replacing fossil fuels with these types of biogenic fuels like renewable diesel. So it's, you know, it's a mandate from the state to have this fuel in our fuel blend now. And according to CARB's recent inventory for the state, about 40% or so of the fuel blend now is comprised of these non-fossil sources, which are drastically reducing emissions of CO2 in California. And I think those are all good things. In our SERP, we do have a mention of renewable diesel as it relates to getting renewable diesel for the fuel dock. So in that sense, you know, this project is helping the SERP along in that way. I'm not an expert in the pollution reduction aspect of renewable diesel, so we'll take Bill and Gustavo and the team and their EIR at their word that it reduces the particulate matter and the other constituents. We do have goals in the SERP to reduce those pollutants, so I think it's important to consider that when we're thinking about renewable diesel. But now a question just for Bill and your team. I understand from your answers that you don't control the trucks that are coming here to pick up this fuel. You know, a very valid concern of many of the community members are trucks that are operating in their community. Do you have any way, and we're really trying to advance zero emission trucks in our neighborhoods. Do you have any relationships or any kind of interaction with the trucking folks where you can learn about their plans for bringing in zero emission trucks, or can, you know, advocate for the SERP that requires, or nothing, it doesn't require, but it recommends zero emission trucks in this community? Can you describe that type of relationship and how you can help these folks perhaps get into these vehicles?
Well, I think our relationships with the trucking companies will be with their drivers once if they come, what the facility is approved and built and constructed. And our relationship pretty much stays with the drivers because that's who we come in contact with unless there is a problem. So, you know, if trucks, for example, weren't following the truck route or or misbehaving, then we simply will send a notice to try to get the behavior to change, or we'll lock the trucker out for not being safe or not following procedures. So we don't typically have that kind of relationship, Phil, but in terms of what we are open to, what we might do to communicate the desire or the priority or the strategy, whatever you all call it, in the SERP of trying to get alternative vehicles in there, to at least to make that known. And I think we would be open to understanding how we may approach that with this facility.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Bill. All right. Jen will be our final commenter / question asker, and then we're going to transition to the next presentation. Jen?
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Kazemplik. I'm from the California Air Resources Board. I'm a manager in the risk reduction branch. Bill, I think your comment about renewable diesel and the 20% reduction in DPM needs context. I'm going to drop something in the chat that describes where the reductions happen. That 29% that you talked about occurs in legacy engines that are very old and do not have emission controls. That's not the case for engines running in California. So I think I would exercise caution when you talk about what reductions are possible with these fuels. The second thing I have is a question. Did the DEIR do a comparison of truck emissions versus the quote superior efficiency locomotive engines? Was there any comparison of the emissions for those? Because your introduction makes it sound as though locomotives are going to be cleaner than trucks.
The BNSF and industry standard, and Kevin, you may have to help me on this, is somewhere around 3.5 to 4 times more efficient per loaded ton mile for rail than truck. That is a railroad number. It's a Kevin.
Yeah, I would just say, without going into a lot of technical detail for this audience, all of that is detailed in the EIR or in the draft EIR. And so we welcome comments. The city welcomes comments to the draft EIR. So if that's something that, is not included, which I think I understand your question, and I believe it is included in detail. But again, I don't have the draft EIR in front of me. I would just refer back to that and then get your comments in. I think that's, those are valid comments.
So there's no comparison of the total possible truck emissions with the total possible locomotive emissions in the DEIR. I was just wondering if there was some other source, because like I said, Bill's comments make it sound as though hauling by locomotive is somehow reducing emissions. So there was no additional study, just what's in the DEIR, I think is what you're saying.
No, I think what we're saying is the detail is in the EIR. So the experts have done the studies, and it's all in very, very much detailed. It's a very robust section of the EIR, and I would just refer you to that. I mean, for that type of technical question, Jen, and I'm not trying to be dismissive. I appreciate your question. It's just, that's a very technical question. And I think we need to do, that would be, let's bring in our experts who did the study, provide responses to that question. And there's a process already in place to do that through the CEQA review process and the public comment period for the draft EIR. So that there is a process for that. And I would just encourage us to, to follow that.
Thank you. And in consideration of the audience and in the simplest possible terms, CARB has done a comparative study of locomotive versus truck for hauling and determined that hauling by locomotive is not cleaner than hauling by truck. So I'll drop that in the chat as well. This all just needs nuance, it all needs context. And I would just caution you not to be too sweeping in your remarks when you talk about locomotives being clean. The average for BNSF, their fleet right now operating in California is less than tier 2. It's about a tier 1 plus. It's not particularly clean, and it's not cleaner than trucks. And the community should understand that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for sharing that, Jen. We'll make sure that folks, both in the panelist list and attendee list, are able to access the links you put in the chat. At this time, we're going to transition. Kyle Heskela from the Environmental Health Coalition will be providing a presentation regarding the same project. I encourage folks from USDG Clean Fuels to stay for this presentation, as there might be follow-up questions as well for you all. Okay, Kyle, go ahead, and you can go ahead and share your screen.
I appreciate that. I think we had told the team, first of all, thank you for the time and for all your folks. We had actually not planned on staying, thinking that we were going to give our presentation in Q&A. And so
it's up to you all. Just wanted to extend that, also encourage you all, and also just wanted to share, we provided probably more time than you all anticipated on this as well. It's a really important conversation for the community, but just inviting you to continue to stay in case there's additional questions or comments that you'd like to answer.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate your time this evening.
All right, thank you all. All right, Kyle.
All right, thanks, Shalom. I will try to move quicker since we're a little bit behind schedule. My name is Kyle Haskell. I'm a policy co-director with Environmental Health Coalition, and appreciate the Community Steering Committee for allowing us the time to present this evening. I wanted to highlight some of the SERP connections with this project. You just heard from the project presenters themselves, and particularly goal number 1 is to reduce diesel particulate matter levels by 80% in all Portside community locations. We just heard a proposal to add 25,000 truck trips that will be diesel truck trips to this community. Goal number 2 is to have heavy duty and medium duty trucks servicing the community to be zero emission vehicles ahead of the state requirements. There are no proposals in this project to have zero emission trucks delivering the fuels. Goal number 3 is to have charging infrastructure. That is also not going to be addressed by this project. And then for reducing heavy duty and medium duty trucks, goal number 4, from indirect sources, this project is not necessarily a direct source. It is attracting truck trips. So achieving 100% reduction from an indirect source 5 years ahead of regulatory requirements seems out of reach as well. I will not spend much time on this slide, just to make a note that why National City? It was said that this is a good location for the project, but we know that National City has long been a place where industry is concentrated. The advantages of cleaner air from renewable diesel. I ask the committee, who benefits from that cleaner air? If this project is serving a 35-mile square radius, that is all the way up to Oceanside. And we can assume there will be some clean air benefits for the region, but not to have the burden placed on West National City. With the SERP This body, this committee exists to undo the legacy of harm that industry and pollution has done to the Portside communities. We're familiar with where the location is. It is very close in terms of air, as air has no borders. The concentration of all of that activity is directly across the freeway from schools, homes, churches, the community that is already suffering from high rates of asthma, higher rates of cancer, and other health impacts that are associated with concentrations of diesel particulate matter. I want to emphasize that USD Clean Fuels said that this is clean fuel. And I want to say that something that is less dirty is not clean. Having a slightly lower impact on particulate matter is not the same as having an electric truck or an electric vehicle. The emissions coming from renewable diesel are still emissions going to be breathed in by the community. These fuels may be required by the state of California, but from the perspective of Environmental Health Coalition, these fuels are a bridge to nowhere. The true move that we need to be making is to electrification. Having biofuels, renewable fuels is meant to help in the short run, but the people who will suffer in the long run are those that have the burden of the health impacts from living near these facilities. To reiterate, 70 heavy-duty truck trips per day is 25,000 trips in a year. The fuels are flammable and will contribute more pollution than zero-emission technologies like battery trucks, battery cars. Kimball Elementary School is only a third of a mile away from this facility, and the nearest residences are 550 feet. I want to give the Port of San Diego credit in its goals and ambitions to electrify. That is the direction that this community deserves: electrification, not renewable combustibles. So with that, our request is that this committee upholds the SERP, upholds reducing diesel in this overpolluted community, upholds protection of community health, and sends a letter to the City of National City to reject the proposed USD Fuels transfer station project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. I want to open it up to folks who have any questions or comments. I do see a person in the attendee, Elida. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute to share.
Thank you very much. My name is Alita Kacharian, and I'm a medical student at UC San Diego in the MD-PhD Physician Scientist Training Program. I hold a degree in Earth and Planetary Sciences and Environmental Engineering from Harvard University, so my understanding of medicine is informed by environmental health science. I would like to advocate today for health equity and amplify community and patient voices. As you all know, the Portside community is an epicenter of both childhood asthma and cancer-causing diesel particulate matter pollution. Medically, I am extremely concerned for the health impacts caused by the addition of 70 more diesel trucks per day within a stone's throw of an elementary school in a community that already contains 200 plus indirect diesel pollution sources from warehouses and truck traffic. The environmental impact report that USD provided states that most facility operations will necessitate truck activity at night. Childhood asthma is exacerbated at night, and there is a plethora of literature indicating that sleep disturbance due to nighttime noise and air pollution exacerbates and worsens health outcomes for those with underlying respiratory illnesses like asthma. Additionally, I failed to read in the EIR any analysis of the project's emissions that take into account local coastal diurnal wind patterns that cause peak PM 2.5 levels at night when the sea breeze tapers down, and this would increase the emissions estimate that they provided in the EIR. I would ask that the claim that this proposal does not cause significant negative health impacts that they made be critically examined by a physician and medical team. I urge the CSC to choose not to sacrifice the health and well-being of an entire community of children, elders, and families for a modest improvement in regional emissions. That's not environmental justice, it is environmental injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Elita. I see Jonathan's hand up. Jonathan?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Torres. I work with SDG&E, particularly in the electrification of medium-duty and heavy-duty vehicles. As a result of my job, I also interact with other technologies like renewable diesel. Renewable diesel is a better option than regular diesel. As was already mentioned, gas emissions are substantially lessened by using renewable diesel. Particulate matter is also reduced somewhat, 30 to 35%, depending on who you ask. However, I do agree with both Kyle and Elida in that the best thing to do would be to decarbonize completely. And I also recommend that this project be not recommended to the City of National City, as it will bring a substantial amount of both gas emissions and particulate matter that currently is not there and will be present. And there will be, of course, environmental impacts, and also they can be measured in human impacts for all the residents in the area, as these particulate matter and gas emissions will be increased in the neighborhood of National City. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan. Wanted to see if there was any other question, comments, or motions.
Hey, Shalom, this is Maritza. I motion to approve or support EHC's letter in rejecting this project. I hope I said that correctly.
Yeah, I'd second that motion. I think the USDG Fuels presenters did a good job of explaining what the project would do. I think we understand the project proposal, and it doesn't align with our vision for the Portside. And so, yeah, I support Maritza's motion to vote to sign on to the opposition letter.
Okay, just want to restate the motion and then place the link to the letter, which has we shared a few weeks back. So the motion is the CSC support. I'm gonna put EHC's sign-on letter, and I'm writing this in the chat. And I'm gonna ask Domingo. And I want to get this exact language. And actually, I'm pulling this from the letter. The CSC supports EHC's sign-on letter to reject approval of the USDG Fuels project proposal. Does that sound right, Maritza and Nicolas?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Shalom.
And
I'm
then,
placing that in the chat box. Yes, Nicholas.
okay.
I was just agreeing.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna ask Domingo.
I'm translating it right now.
Okay, he's gonna translate it. I'm gonna place that in the chat box as well. As that's happening, I want to open it up for discussion regarding the motion on the floor right now. Phil, did I see you? Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question. It's the letter as written, just to clarify with EHC, is this letter is it in response to the EIR or is it directed just to the city of National City? Meaning, are we submitting this potentially as part of response to the EIR, or is it just going directly to national to the mayor and the city council?
I believe it's not going to be submitted as as a comment for the draft EIR. This is intended to be a letter sent directly to the elected officials of the city of National City.
Okay, and then I don't follow their city council agendas closely. They haven't agendized this project yet. Is that correct?
Correct. It would
Okay.
have to go to Planning Commission in the next 4 to 6 weeks after the EIR comment period is closed. And then after Planning Commission would go to the City Council. So it could happen in the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the motion? And I'm going to make sure that this motion is shared. Thank you, Domingo, in the chat box in Spanish for everyone, for transparency for all the attendees as well. All right, I'm just scanning the room in both the panelists and also the attendees one more time, just to see if there's anyone who has any other questions or comments before we go to a vote. All right, I want to reiterate the motion on the floor was made by Maritza, seconded by Nicolas, both CSC members. The motion is CSC support EHC's sign-on letter to reject approval of the USDG Fuels project. I've also included in the chat box that letter, a link to that letter as well that has been sent out previously. Oops, I think I see a question here. By Bradley Bang, just posted, said, although the USD reps clearly presented the scope of this project, it is still clear that National City will suffer from an increase in emissions. I support the proposal to sign on to the EHC letter. So I just wanted to make sure I read that as part of the discussion to include in the record. Domingo, were you going to share something? I think I saw you come off mute.
No, I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm going to share my screen with you as I do a roll call vote.
Jack has his hand up.
Oh, Jack, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to mention that I'm going to oppose the motion because I don't think it's consistent with our state policy, our governor's policy, and even CARB's policy to encourage the development of transitional fuel options while we make this movement from heavy carbon-based fuels to electrification. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I believe that's the reason that the state has stated their belief that facilities like this and the product that it brings to the region is so important. So for that reason, I'm going to be opposing the motion.
All right, thank you for sharing, Jack. I just want to see if there's any other comments or discussion before we move to roll call vote. And if I'm missing your hand, I apologize. Go ahead and come off mute if need be. I'm trying my best to kind of scan the room here. Jonathan?
Yeah, hey, Jack, would you mind repeating what the reason for your opposition again?
Sure, I believe we have a state policy that is certainly been voiced by our governor, by our legislature, and that while we have this commitment to electrification, we acknowledge that that there is some transitional need for options to get us there, and that would include facilities like this one, facilities that deliver biodiesel, biofuel, whatever it is that enables us to get there quicker and provides a lower impact in terms of emissions. So that as all those cars are going up and down I-5 right through National City, could potentially be reduced in terms of their harm to that community. Otherwise, we're just going to end up waiting for complete electrification, which is years away. So somewhere these facilities have to go somewhere, and I think the challenge is about making them as safe and as the least impacting as possible.
All right, thank you, Jack. I do see Jen from the California Air Resources Board with their hand up. Jen?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that CARB in its comment letter on this project did not say it was a bad project and did not say that it shouldn't go forward. CARB is aligned with the state. What it did say is that the 104 additional trains plan to serve the project and the trucks plan to serve the project should be as clean as possible. CARB is in favor of renewable fuels, as Jack points out, but delivering them could be done much cleaner. And there is a cleanest way possible to do this.
Thank you, Jen. I do see Sarah's hand raised.
I myself am also going to abstain, but because our facility is using renewable diesel, and we feel like it's been a great win for reducing greenhouse gas and diesel particulate. And I don't have I understand that. I think the presentation was very good about talking about the impact here. I think it would have been helpful to hear what CARB's analysis was, because more to Jack's point, it's not just a policy, but many of us are going to be required, and we started using it voluntarily at my facility a couple of years ago, but there are now requirements to use it all over the state. And it would be curious to understand what CARB's analysis was for how this fuel was going to get all over the state. If not by rail car, then it would have to come by truck or boat, but it's got to be distributed somehow. And it would seem to me that that would have been part of the overall analysis in making this requirement to what the benefits were. So I would just make that point that, it is an important step, I think, on the way to electrification for reducing emissions. It's got a tremendous greenhouse gas benefit. Again, this is irrespective of what community it went in, but I would have thought, recognizing that many disadvantaged communities are located close to rail lines, and not just in San Diego, but also up in Los Angeles and other communities, I would have expected to see that would have been CARB's part of their overall analysis about how this fuel would be distributed in order to meet the requirements to use it all over the state.
Thank you, Sarah. Nicolas, and then Maritza.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion. I think for me, this project, I guess us opposing this project for this idea that by doing so, we are going against the policy of CARB. I think that's kind of an unfair characterization of what this is. I think the whole reason why the CSC exists is through the CAP program through CARB, and so pushing back against a project that would increase pollution in the Portside is affirming the SERP, right? And that's our primary role as a CSC. And so I just wanted to, I guess, elevate that you know, I think signing on to this opposition letter is, again, trying to improve the air quality conditions of the Portside specifically.
Nicolas, we'll go to Maritza, and then after that, we will call a vote. Maritza?
Thank you, Shalem. I do want to recognize that Amaya raised their hand right after or right before you said that, so I'm not sure.
Sure. I'm trying to look at
Yeah,
multiple
no,
screens.
good. I just wanted to,
Sure. We can go
let
to
you know.
Amaya since she hasn't commented on this yet. Yeah, Maritza and then Amaya.
Thank you. So I just, wanted to kind of, I think, echo what Nick was saying in terms of it's not necessarily that we are going against wanting these goals to be reached. They are great goals. It's that we do not want that at the expense of our community. And I think that's the narrative that for some reason keeps being, passed up or not really emphasized, but we're here to better our immediate community before benefiting the rest of the county. And so, yes, that narrative that we don't care, that we're going against it is very false and not appreciated. We want to make sure that we live in a safe community, and this is not a way to achieve that. So thank you. I also, sorry, another point I wanted to make was it's very telling that Shalem, encouraged USD to stay farther. I understand that time is precious, but again, I'm sure that they got paid to be here, and a lot of us do not get paid in that same manner. And so for them to come in to emphasize the community's, well-being and then not have the decency to stay to the end of the meeting is very telling of what we can expect if they do become tenants. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Maritza. And then we'll go to Amaya and then go to the roll call vote. Amaya?
Hi, thanks, Shalom. I just wanted to echo what some of the community members have said, that I don't think it's fair to say that the CSE is trying to go against state policies. At CARB, we do encourage renewable fuels, but we also are here because the Portside community is part of the Community Air Protection Program, which is also an initiative of CARB. And in that initiative, we're here to lower the burden that is placed on communities that have been historically overburdened over and over again. So I don't think that the CSC is saying that they go against state policy. It's just, how many times do we have to be the ones to sacrifice ourselves for the sake of everyone else's betterment, So these are real people that are here and that have been dealing with this for generations. So I just don't think it's fair to keep equating this to going against state policy. Like, this needs to be the one thing that happens for CARB's electrification goals to come true. So I just wanted to echo that.
Thank you, Amaya. We'll go ahead and go to the roll call vote. Can I get a thumbs up from someone? Can everybody see my screen okay with the roll call vote sheet? Okay, great. Thanks, Monse. I'm gonna do the roll call based upon those that I see present in attendance. And then I'll go back and allow folks who for some reason are marked absent to vote. So, but I'll start with those present. Jack?
I vote no.
Sarah?
Abstain.
Phil?
Abstain.
Carrie?
Abstain.
Nick?
Yes.
Martin? Oh, he's not here, so we're gonna skip. I think I saw Safia.
Yes.
Yes on the vote?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, vote.
Okay. Jose?
Abstain.
Jose? Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Jonathan?
Yes.
Janice?
Yes.
John isn't here. Alicia,
Yes.
Margarita,
Yes.
Vanessa. Vanessa, I believe she was using David's line.
No.
Vanessa, you're voting no? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sal was not here. Montserrat,
Sorry, yes.
Silvia,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Maritza,
Yes.
David Ramos.
Yes.
Is there anyone I missed in the roll call vote? Okay. So the ayes have it, 11 to 2 noes and 4 abstained. So the motion passes 11 to 2. Right. Yes, Jack. Did I see a hand raise?
No,
Okay.
not me.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So that's our last agenda item, but I know we're a bit over time, but just want to see if there's any public announcements before we ask for a motion to adjourn. Nicholas?
Yeah, I noticed that this time around there is kind of a split meeting where there was panelists and non-panelists. Um, I'm a little uncomfortable with that format. I think there is folks that were messaging me saying that they're having issues joining the meeting, community members, and so it's kind of hard for me to know like who's present and who isn't. And so if moving forward, if there's a way that we can make sure we're all in the same space, at least visible, that'd be helpful moving forward.
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of that. It actually makes it a bit more of a transparent process, I think, for everyone in both spaces to kind of see holistically who is in the room. We did get a request from a CSC member back in November to go back to the webinar function. Their concern was that they didn't know who the CSC members were and were not. But as we can see this evening, right, you're going to have a mix of both CSC and non-CSC members depending on who's presenting in the panelists. So it doesn't necessarily in this format serve that particular intention. I do want to uplift, and I may have pulled it up here, that Lauren and I actually went through the CSC list, and yep, there she put it already. She beat me to it in the chat box here. I'm also going to put it. I think only her post can only be seen by hosts and panelists, so I'm going to put it here for everybody to see as well. We did reach out to those that have been inactive in the CSC, provided them ample time to let us know if they're still interested. And so as a result, we've been able to update the member list. So the member list is updated on the website. We've got that link there now, but I actually am open to continuing the conversation with Domingo and others in our leadership to see if we can go back to the meeting format, given that it provides for a little bit more community transparency. And also given that we now have the updated and cleaned up kind of CSC roster where folks can identify who's a CSC member and who may not be in the room. Because I think as we saw today, right now we only have 5 attendees in the other room. and then 33 panelists, which are all mixed up because we have people that have been presenting and so forth that are on that kind of in that particular panelist room. But yeah, I'd love to hear other folks' thoughts and comments on that.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if knowing who CSE members are, I can commit to noting in my name like CSE voting member. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I understand the frustration or concern, but I think it's an easy fix, and it would help to know who else is at the meeting.
Yeah, Domingo.
Just a quick suggestion, since we've heard both suggestions from CSE members, maybe we can do a vote next time on the meeting format, and that way it'll be clear, so that we know how to proceed for the future meetings. I do agree that it makes it a lot easier to have everybody on the same virtual room, to put it in a way. I think that's how we do it for international border, correct?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
been working well as well. So
it works great there.
Yeah. But if
yeah.
there are any other concerns about moving in that direction, then maybe we can put it to a vote.
Yeah.
Otherwise we can do it that way next time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if like a formal vote is necessary. Maybe we could, I think the intention was to have that updated list. And second, to your point, Nick, right? Could it be something that we rename to have in parentheses like CSC member alongside our name, so that that's just a little bit clearer on the screen as well. So certainly open to that. And if anyone has any questions or comments on that, you could certainly email Domingo or I to further discuss. But I think there's ways in which we can actually ensure that greater communication and transparency, right? But also ensure that folks have awareness of kind of who's in the space. I think both things can exist. Any other questions, comments, announcements, suggestions? Jack.
I just wanted to say I appreciate Shalem and Domingo that you all devoted. I think I know it wasn't as much. Wasn't supposed to last this long, but still you devoted an ample amount of time to us discussing an extremely important issue. And I felt in meetings previously that we were kind of rushing through, trying to get to all kinds of agenda items, and we never really got, in some cases, well, in certain cases, a chance to devote an appropriate amount of time and discussion to an issue. And I think we did tonight. I think everybody had a say. And so I hope we can do that in the future as well.
Thank you, Jack. Any other questions, comments? Awesome. So with that, certainly open it up if someone would like to motion to adjourn and second that.
I motion to adjourn the meeting,
Maritza, and
I'll second that. Sylvia?
Sylvia seconds that. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those oppose? I would say your family needs to have a conversation with you if you're opposed. Just kidding. All right, we'll have a wonderful night, and we will follow up with presentations that we received tonight and post them on our website this week, if not this week, early next week. So thank you all. Have a good night. Take care. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Buenas noches.